Hi, Barry. Welcome to the hot seat this month. I am so glad to have you here. I'll do a very quick intro, Barry, and then we'll run through the questions because we keep these quite sweet and short. So quick intro, I'm Bhumi, founder and CEO at Interim Market, which is a contractor community platform. And today we have Barry Flack, who will be discussing with us the changes that are currently being resisted within HR and businesses. Is it either or both? It's a very interesting topic. Barry, please take it away and give us a quick intro.
Thank you, Bhumi. Thanks for inviting me on. Look, I don't have a conventional approach to who I am and what I do, and I think we're all going to get into that space. So I guess I live the portfolio dream, having been in the corporate space for about 20 odd years. Several years ago, I came out with a mission to do lots of interesting pieces of work, and I guess I'm living that at the moment. So in short, I get a chance to work with organizations of all sizes, from startups to SMEs to sort of large enterprises. And working with them on their assorted problems, which might be anything from, frankly, startup mode to scale up. What do they do when they're at that 150 complexity stage? Technology adoptions, a very clear sense that we have an overwhelming HR tech market, and where should they go beyond the usual suspects? And then I go out there with all of this combined, I guess, and work with a few HR tech startup vendors themselves as they come through seeking a bit of relevance. And I put all this together, talk right, and I guess try and get the overall people tribe moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. And the space is so interesting as well, especially because if I started to talk to you about HR tech and startups, I think we'll be here the whole day because you do so much work in that space, but we'll stick to it. I think one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you about this HR topic really was because I read a blog of yours in October last year, which, has really struck a chord with me. So I wanted to probe you a little bit on that because that really inspired this talk. So why did you write that blog? Specifically at this sort of time and not before?
Yeah, look, I guess timing wise, I came into the sort of blog space several years ago before trying to be slightly more professional. I had one called Changing HR, and it was very much about that gorilla in the room, which was my inner frustrations with us, with the world of work, with the opportunity that presented itself. And what we should be doing. And in short, it was, frankly, a bit of an addiction to some of the 20th century stuff that I've experienced far too often that I wanted to see rid of. And I revisited again in October, born out of getting the words on a piece of paper to help my mind clear and my frustration levels by challenging HR out there about why we are so addicted to solutions that are patently not working.
Absolutely. And are you happy for me to share the link of that blog again here at the end of this video? Because I'm sure people will want to know what that was about. And it is, as I said, it's a very interesting topic. Would you want to give us a quick 20-second on the topic, just so people that are listening to this know what that's about?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's about resistance to change. It's about the very fact that we have a series of business problems now in an utterly complex market, recognizing the complexity of people, and we are still facing into that with solutions that are frankly not taking the relevance of that complexity into mind. We are still rolling out constructs that are toxic, that are creating disengaged employees, that are wasting people's time, that are leading to unproductivity. And I want to keep challenging our tribe to rethink their own toolkit as they go in and, frankly, solve some big problems we need them to solve.
Excellent. Yeah. So then that leads on to my first question, which is, what do you feel are the top 3 resistance to change by HR and business teams? And the second part to that question is, are they common or are they completely different things?
I think they're common. Interestingly, I had a conversation with a potential client in Stockholm yesterday. They're on the business side, And my usual spiel resonated exactly with their problem set. 45-year-old organization that is currently going backwards on performance. So, when I mention these sorts of three things, business and HR are and do continue to have a bit of a blind spot around this. So what is it? I've mentioned already, I think there is an addiction to this 20th century construct, this command and control piece that has us in change, intervening into what is a world of intelligent people who can make choices, who've got a brain in their head, who make intelligent responses to some of the things that we do when we intervene. And we have to recognize that this idea that we set up change in the way that we do, like a journey, like a start, an end and a middle, and we take people and then we label those that don't get taken along with us as individuals who are resistant to change. I mean, resistance to change does not exist. If it did, we'd all still be in the caves eating animals. The idea that we have people in our workplaces who have chosen to live a life and, go on mortgages and change careers and do all of these things tells us they're not resistant to change. What they are resistant to is the utter stupidity of the change that's put in front of them. They're rational. They have a feeling around what it means for them. So am I going to lose more money? Am I going to lose status? Do I have enough capability to do this new thing that's being asked? And we don't spend enough time recognizing that resistance to change itself is about the methodology. So I think there's, I think a huge part of this is about how do we look at people and how do we give them more respect than we do. And HR people get very annoyed with me when I say that, because we tend to treat people a bit stupidly. And we tend to feel, and this leads to the second point, Bhumi, which is at its heart is our own insecurity as a HR tribe about what does this mean for us?
Right.
So as the world has changed, our role has been, evolving as the side of the business that intervenes in the people problems, that helps the business change, that goes through transformation. But if in fact you've got intelligent people who are really looking for a framework to operate within, guidance to solve problems, and intelligence to understand their market, the bottom line is for HR professionals is, what does it mean for us? Does the world still require us in our old constructs of HR, learning, development, and all that other stuff that we have been born and bred into? So we're very good at blaming the business when we look into them about the resistance to change piece. But a huge part of it is that we can't come to terms with the fact that we are, in the way we're constructed, part of that 20th century. So our own insecurity is a big part of it. And how do we reinvent it? Why can't we give those inside the business that we've demarcated as, managers who can't recruit and all this other stuff? Why don't we give them the tools to do this? This is not miraculous, so there is a lot of fear that sort of goes with it. And then I think the third thing that straddles both of us, but of course has put HR on the hook, of course, is that we are still in a world of short-termism. We still want a business who wants instant gratification or an instant solution to a problem. And if I think of some of the tech adoptions, I've seen the incredibly sad faces on buyers who have bought some artificial intelligent piece of whiz on predictive hiring that suddenly isn't providing them with, A-class rock stars in the following week. And you remind them that it's being trained and it's learned and it's taking on our biases and it just happens to be a new member of the team that doesn't get tired or doesn't demand drinks on a Friday evening with everybody else, but it still needs to learn the business. And across the piece, if you take the HR insecurity, the clumsy transformation initiatives, the likelihood of resistance amongst intelligent people, it means that we fail a hell of a lot. And that is ultimately then spirals into our own growing lack of self-confidence about who we are and what we contribute, and the position that we stay. And so, my plea in the blog and my plea in the HR people out there is let's question, let's analyze. The world's changed. Why should we be shielded from that?
Absolutely. It also reminds me of one of the other blogs that I'd written, which was all about the patience that we give humans when we onboard a new human being as a temp or even a permanent graduate or new member of staff. We have enough patience with them. We give them 3 months, 6 months probation periods. But with the tech, we don't seem to have that sort of patience. We expect results almost instantly. And I've personally, as a startup founder, seen that although the solution is a no-brainer and not that it just does the transactional, we've got this huge community piece to it, it still is something that just, there's something about the word change that we're going to have to change to, change it for the better as well. It's just, something's unsettling. So I think I completely agree with your points of, having that fear inside and just not being sure about it. And do you think, is that because HR folks don't have the skills to cope with that new thing coming in, or is it purely because they're just not comfortable? We're all just uncomfortable with change.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think at its heart, people are messy, people are complex. We should always remind ourselves that in the midst of the rise of the machines, that we probably will never get to a point of matching our own messiness that we have built into us for millions of years. I think the biggest issue is really about how we need to shake our learning out of thinking about change in the way that it is. So humans naturally don't like uncertainty. So how do we build a level of certainty into it? And that's about ownership. That's about opt-in. So how many change initiatives have we seen down the years have been about, this will be done to you? Nobody likes that. Now, if the idea is that we need to ask you to opt in voluntarily because we can convince you, because you're intelligent, that's a different matter. That begins to allow me to take control of the situation. So we're still in this assemble the team, put together the project plan, have the kickoff, go through the milestones. Those things are frankly illusions of our control, that we're getting somewhere, that we've done something to change the organization. And then we're reporting back to those at the most nervous, the ones who've invested in it, whether it's technology or culture programs. And we're telling them that we have spread our wings across the company, that we have trained 80% of the organization and that results will follow. We don't, because the social network that's out there, frankly, has resisted it. The people who stand around the water coolers know what to do with it. Those that are unconvinced will rebel against it. And, all of that stuff that goes on in an artificial construct that is the organization ultimately kills it. And then we're back again. So, there is a capability, but at its start, it's a bit like an addiction that says, am I addicted to understanding the world in a certain way? Am I addicted to developing my way of tackling this problem in a one-size-fits-all? And should I change? And we should never be arrogant enough to sort of stick our flag into one size fits all and this is what we're going to do. We have to keep challenging ourselves. And I don't think we get enough of that. And I think that'll pass us by. I don't think HR will be around in the way that we perceive it in the next, 5 to 7 years.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think perceptions and having the ability to challenge ourselves is key. But 95% or more population don't really think of that because they're so busy with the day-to-day, right? But then that also, the whole HR aspect, then leads me to the users. And a blog I recently wrote, which I'm very keen to discuss a little bit with you because I know you had an opinion on that as well, is the bullshit that we call in the art of talent management, right? So everybody's out there an expert telling the people on the ground who are delivering individuals and teams of what to do in the art of talent management, whereas actually those are the people on the ground. They have the experience, they're dealing with it day in, day out. Instead of listening to them, instead of bringing them onto the selection committees for, new tech or whatever it is, new initiatives, I feel that they're still firefighting day in, day out. And it's people from above who don't necessarily understand what's going on the ground that put this change in place, etc., which is where some of this resistance, I suppose, comes in play. So how does all of this relate, and what's your view on that?
Yeah, look, it's everything you've described is at the heart of why I'm detesting the old-fashioned hierarchical command and control organization. It starts to signal my newfound love for everything decentralized.
Right.
Because there's a very clear line that says, you know, those sitting high up inside the organizations, frankly, are adding very little value by riding in on their white horses, believing that they know the answer to the periphery of their business. Those closest to the market, making decisions and understanding the client and seeing the reaction and all of that great stuff that is how our organizations create value, is counterintuitive to the old traditional hierarchical business. So the system that we have, you know, is frankly driving ultimately this culture. And unless we play with the system that gives more empowerment to intelligent people close to the periphery and the client, recognizing that people are ultimately good and want to do good jobs and solve problems, you're just going to go round and round this utterly ridiculous facade that somebody riding in from on high imposing, and once again the challenge to HR people is that we do that, is just a waste of time. But it's the other side of this real frustration I have at the moment, which is in one of the Western economy's most unproductive countries, the beholden nature of these old traditions and rituals and nonsense is holding us back. So a big part of when I work with organizations that actually appeals to them is the idea that instead of being additive, which is the other thing that annoys people in change, we should be cleansing our organization. You know, we should be in there challenging the stuff that doesn't work, the meetings that don't work, the annual performance reviews that you multiply by thousands of people hours that don't produce anything, that people rebel against, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I would challenge the workforce planning, you know, that demands a picture for 12 months' time, when the world as it is at the moment is frankly changing by the day, the week, you know, and sometimes by the hour. You know, what is the point in that beyond creating work in the moment, rather than, as you know, as you know, and as your product goes, we're building ourselves a task-based focus on the world. And that, you know, we are going to get ourselves to a point of being able to prove agility by having expertise on hand, brought all the way down to the task, you know, not even by the job. The problem we have, and when I give feedback on, you know, on your blog, which was brilliant, we have an ecosystem today that's a mess. You know, we want to do, as you said in the blog, in terms of recognizing all parts of that talent management ecosystem, but the law and the tax regime and the fear and the impact on the business model at the moment is undeniably broken. So the problem with doing the right thing by humans, of involving them and developing them and coaching them, etc., is that you then clash with the ridiculously boring world of worker classification that allows companies who've tried this to be hit with very retrospective fines that they then can't pass on to the customer. You know, and you look at the courier industry as a prime example. You know, you look at Uber and taxis, you know, coming late in the day and being faced with bills of several million is a massive detriment to your business model. So unfortunately, the regulators need to catch up. Progress, if we ever get past the B word and sort that particular conundrum out, to really understand what the setup is in a modern economy, can actually make this work for organizations up and down the country.
Absolutely. So following on from there, just as an example, let's say people that are listening to this today, they're HR folks, recruitment folks, and they said, okay, fine. So this is the challenge. We get the challenge, and we're going to have a new HR system, and we want to involve all layers of our employees. How would you help them structure, in an example, in a nutshell, what would be the first and second steps that they can take? So when they're going to, you know, selection committees or having a parade of these new tech coming in, what's the first or second step they can take to get started on this? Because the vision is huge, the problem is quite deep, but what is the start to the solution?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think the start of that solution is a very clear sense of understanding that you've got an organization that wants to upgrade the experience of those that work in it.
Mm.
So having the sorts of conversations that we've already had, which is, well, what is the purpose in some of these old rituals?
Mm.
And what we shouldn't do before we go out and adopt some technology is, an automated performance appraisal system is still dire. As a module, don't touch it. Go back and ask the question, what value is it driving?
Mm.
So I think the technology adoption is a great opportunity to do that.
Mm.
And then I think the other piece and some of the great stuff that's permeating in around user experience, about design theory, about, mapping a real sense of what it means for people is then the next stage of that particular piece. So before you go anywhere near ordaining any level of technology company, understand that you want a quick, frictionless, effective experience for the people who are in your business, the people who are outside your business. Walk yourself through that experience. Let some of those people who've never, in 20 odd years of working in a company, let them experiment with just how awful the recruitment process is.
Mm-hmm.
Do those things. Get people involved across the piece. Create a hack. Let people feel they're part of that change, and then create something from an experience point of view that you go challenge the vendors on.
Absolutely.
And hold them accountable for not selling you all that functionality that they've decided upon in their own product. But you want a product that fits for the experience that's going to differentiate.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Barry. As you know, I could keep asking you plenty of questions, but I do want to pause it here and just really thank you for your time. And what I will do is be adding a few blogs as well as we've been speaking that, relate to this chat as well. So once again, thank you so much. And I hope everyone that's listened to it and watched it gets value out of this. Barry's contact details, i.e. LinkedIn, will be in the description as well. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate it.